Hello everybody, today I'm going to be showing off my most recently completed lightsaber build, the Saberbay Jedi Survivor, with a Crossguard. As always, this video is going to serve as a guide for the owner of this lightsaber, the one who commissioned this build from me in the first place, as well as a showcase of the lightsaber itself, and a breakdown of the install. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So to begin, I figured I might as well show off the lightsaber in its entirety, just to show how it works, and then I'll get into the more minor details as we go. So first and foremost, this is a Bluetooth lightsaber, so you can control it on your phone. It's got the clashes, blaster blocks, drag effects, force effects, and lockup and everything else. You can control all of that on the app. This is the Force Sync app, and this is the Profi board, so you'll want to click on Profi when you go into it. So when you first enter in the app, it's going to ask you to find the soundboard, or to find the Bluetooth module, which is the BT909, FSC BT909. Click on that and it'll ask you for a code. It'll be 6 zeros. So 000, 00, and then 0 again. And then it won't ask you again for that device. And then you scroll over to Profi, click on it, and then you're all set. Now, let's go through the buttons here. This is a 2-button setup, just like Jimmy Saber Junk designed it. And with his install video, which I followed, for the most part, I decided to go for what he was building, but making a few adjustments where I figured it was needed, such as the diffusion of the blades, and a couple other minor details that I'll show off later. But first and foremost, it's a 2-button setup here. This is going to be your activation button. It's really hard to tell which is the activation and auxiliary, so whenever you set this up, because you're going to be swapping between the non-side blade ones and then the crossguard one here, and then you can change the direction of the buttons. But right now, as it's set up, is the retention screw for the blade is in line with the power button. And it's got all the normal controls of Profi. Other side is the auxiliary switch. It's got the gesture controls set up, so there we go. It'll turn off, it'll turn on. Sorry, I'm not too used to controlling Profi at the moment, so I'm going to be doing it a bit weird, just like with CFX, because CFX and Profi gesture controls are slightly different with how the parameters are set. But in any case, you've got the activation, auxiliary, and then I have it set up so that, of course, it can do all the vocal menu stuff. And, okay, I'm not triggering it great, but it has music, vocal menus. It's hard to press both buttons at the same time just because the buttons are so shallow. So I'm trying to do it here.
Volume menu.
Volume menu is when you hold the power button and the auxiliary at the same time. You rotate it to change volume menu. Press it again to exit. Menu. And then you can check the battery level just by holding the auxiliary and tapping the power. So basically the opposite of what you do
Battery
before.
level 94%.
It's basically a fully charged battery right there. So let's just go through all of my fonts real quick.
Green.
So these are all the fonts that come with the standard package that I set up on all my lightsabers. And then this is a little bit of a cool-off effect.
Red.
This is an unstable blade.
Yellow. White.
This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
This is more of an original trilogy, A New Hope version.
A Jedi's weapon. Take your weapon. Strike me down with all of your hatred.
So with my font package, I tried to show as many colors and blade styles as I can set up on here. There might be around 19 different ones, at least sound fonts. And then you can see different blade styles as you go. A lot of them are the stock fonts with the Profi, and then I also have the free fonts from Kyberphonic, 1 or 2 from Grayscale, Phoenix Fonts, just quite a few different ones. This one's a fire blade.
Smooth Jedi. Smooth fuzz.
Rainbow.
Smooth gray.
Teensy.
Lava lamp of sorts. And this is the battery level blade, so it'll show battery percentage wherever it is on the blade, and what color it is how much charge it is. So I've got a lot of stuff there. Looks like I'm running low on battery or on memory for my camera, which I didn't check beforehand, so I'll try and get through as much as I can and then I'll swap it out. But that just about covers everything that's set up on this lightsaber. My customer's going to set up all the fonts and whatever else on his end. So now I'm going to show you the side blades. Now the issue with the side blades is it's really hard to diffuse the light to make it so that the pixels aren't shown as much. And the way that it's set up is a 2 pixel strip. This is how they want you to set it up. It's 2 pixel strip, and then you put a foam core thing around it, and then around that some blade diffusion film. But that doesn't do a very good job, so I spent a very long time. That was the longest I spent on this lightsaber, was just figuring out what kind of diffusion worked best to get it as diffused as I possibly could in such a very tiny and thin lightsaber. So I ended up setting up about 4 different diffusion layers. I got pretty creative with my diffusion and managed to make it look super, super nice. The last step I'd say is just to sand the side blades, but my customer's going to do that on his own once he gets it. So I'm very proud of how this came out, because how it originally was set up, didn't like it at all, so I wanted to make it as good looking as possible. Now, this is a 1-inch blade, so just keep that in mind. And then you'll never really need to take out the side blades, but you can if you want to. There's a retention screw at the bottom, but there's really no need to take them out. But if you want to, there's that option. So let's take this out and I can show you everything else about this lightsaber. Put the blade plug in, because there's a lot you need to know about how it's all set up and how it all functions and how to swap between the Crossguard and non-Crossguard version. So you're just going to need to keep that in mind. The other thing I want to go over before I run out of battery is just some of the extra stuff I did with this lightsaber hilt, specifically with the side blades. So as I already mentioned, it's got 4 different layers of diffusion. It would be 5 if you sand the outside more. And then the other thing I wanted to do was in between, in this joint, I used black wires for the blades. So instead of using colored wires like you normally would, I decided to go with black so you didn't notice it at all. And I figured that was a good touch to add, just because you don't want to be seeing some extra stuff and you want it to look pretty nice. So it's all black wire in there and you won't be able to see any of it. Even in person, you don't even notice. So hope you like that. I added that because I figured it'd be pretty cool. Now, I guess I'll go and clear out my memory card and then I'll get right back to recording. Alright, I'm back, and hopefully I have enough storage space to finish off this lightsaber showcase and breaking down all the install stuff. So, where was I? I was talking about the side blades. So, here's a closer look at the side blades, and then closer look at the diffusion. On camera, it's really, really hard to show the pixelation of the blades. You can kind of see it when it adjusts light levels there. So it is visible still, but it's significantly better than it was. So I'd call this a win, because honestly, these are really hard to diffuse being so thin. You can hardly fit anything in there. But they're plenty bright, and the diffusion is pretty good. So again, the final step would be to sand it. And then a closer look at the insides. You can't even see it, but there are black wires there. So I'll quickly show you how to remove them. If this doesn't come with this really tiny hex key, you'll need to find one that fits. But again, you won't really need to remove the blades. You just go to the bottom, you unscrew it, loosen it up, and there you go. They come right out if it focuses. And as you can see, it does have a guide, so it only goes in one way, so you won't mess it up. And then you can see the inside. You can tighten these. I would recommend tightening these every now and again because they seem to get loose the more you play around with them. So just make sure you check on the tightness. And then that's about that. So I'll put these back. I will say that this lightsaber was a fun one to build. The initial install was super quick and super straightforward. The engineering of this hilt is really, really nice for the most part. There's a few gripes I have with it, and I'll show you those things as we get to them. But as for the install, it was pretty straightforward. Once I got all the parts, I just installed it that night. But then I had to wait on a few extra parts that I didn't have. Because it was missing a few pieces when I got it, so we had to wait a little bit to install it. Same with the blades and such, but in the end, it all worked out super, super well. There's one thing I'll go over with the speaker pod later, because I made a slight mistake with that, but I fixed it right up. So with that, I'm going to move on to showing off the chassis. This has an OLED display that I set up with custom BMPs, not custom as in I made it, but custom combination of BMPs, I suppose. So I just took them from a BMP list that people have had, and I put them all together to make something that I thought looked pretty neat. So this is the idle animation, and then when you turn it on, whoops, there we go. When you turn it on, this is the on animation. It does have a turn off animation as well. You can't really see it very well, but you'll see it in person. It's just the focus is horrendous on this. And then it does have little clash signifiers on there, along with the other effects, but is that the button? No, that's different. There we go. So there we go. That is the OLED display. Then the speaker, of course, is removable with this because this is the Jimmy Saber Junk chassis. It's a twist and click chassis, so you just turn it and take it out. And then you also can see the Bluetooth module with its light indicators. This is just showing that it's connected to the phone. This is the Profi board 3.9. Here's the kill switch. This is a rotary chassis PCB that is useful for plugging into everything. I have it all set up. And that's pretty much all you need to know about this. The only other thing would be positive goes towards the soundboard and the emitter, the negative goes towards the speaker, and you can remove it either with your nail or with a flat edge of like tweezers or something. So you just throw that in there, then it works. And whenever you want to remove the speaker in order to change it out for the extended speaker pod, you just twist, it undoes, and here you go. You've got the very, very nice setup here. This is a 28mm bass speaker, and I think that's really all I need to say about this lightsaber. It's very, very loud when it's outside of the hilt. When it's in the hilt, it's not quite as loud, I imagine, because the sound venting isn't the best, but it's still pretty good. It's got very nice hidden sound venting here, as you can see a little bit, and then inside you can kind of see it. So it does muffle it a bit, but nothing we can do about that. Now, the things I want you to keep in mind. When you're twisting this in, don't be violent with it. You're going to want to just find where it clocks. There you go, it goes in, and then just gently twist it until it clicks. You don't want to overdo it, because the way that the top section, the connectors in here are set up, it's only held in with retention screws that I'll show you over here. Those retention screws will eventually wear down the plastic over time. I'll show you on this one. This is the non-Crossguard one that you'll need. It will wear down this top collar section over time, just because that's how it is designed to be held. There's no other option. It is the way that the hilt has been manufactured, and it's the way that they want you to retain it. So that's the only way that it really works. So to try and make it last as long as possible, don't over twist it, because you will force it to turn and then it'll wear down the plastic. So just go until it clicks or doesn't click, and then you'll be all set. Now, I'm going to show you a few things that you need to know about how to remove this and then we'll be all set. So, to get started, I'm just going to take out the chassis and turn it off. There we go. Leave that up there for now. I have this greebly and this greebly held on with 3M double-sided tape, super thin. I have quite a bit of extra that I'm sending with the hilt for you to replace it in case this ever gets unstuck, and to add to the bottom of these guys, should you want to. And I would say you want to because the magnets aren't super strong. They're as strong as they can be, but not the strongest that you'd want them to be. So the magnets I set up on here are neodymium magnets, 3mm, 3x1, and they attach themselves to the screws. And they actually create a pretty decent structure to them. I also sanded it down so it's super flat because it stuck out in a few places, same with the screws. So if you ever misalign the screws, like you take this screw, put it in here, or this one in there, it will get a little bit wonky, but just try and keep in mind where they go, or just stick on these things so you don't have any issues there with them coming off, because they do come off fairly easily. But you kind of need them to, because that is the way that you need to remove everything to allow it to go to a single button and single blade setup. So let me go and loosen some of this stuff. Step 1 is to loosen up the main collar section with all 6 of these screws. It could also be step 2 or 3, but this is one of the steps that you need to take in order to remove the collar section. You can remove this, put it off to the side. You will need to note where it's clocked in order to allow for the hook to be oriented the way that you want it to be. It will take a little bit of practice to get it done right. Same with getting this all clocked in alignment, because it won't do it automatically. You have to do it yourself through the different adjustment methods that they provide. Now, let's move on to removing these shrouds. There's a couple reasons you'd want to remove these shrouds. The first one, of course, is to remove or to get access to the set screws that hold everything in place. The second thing that you'd want is to tighten the shrouds, because they will get loose over time unless you want them to be super stuck on there and very hard to get off, which is not pleasant. So if they do wiggle a little bit, you can always just remove it this way and tighten them. So this top ring, this metal ring, you have to remove by hand. So you have to stick your hands in there and just rotate them counterclockwise as best as you can. You can also use double-sided tape or whatever else to get it done. Sometimes it'll get a little bit tight, so you can't do it as much, but you'll be able to figure it out. I will do it off camera real quick, and then I'll get right back with you. Okay, so I found that the easiest way to do it, I don't know if it actually affects anything, but I took out the blade plug and then I was able to do it super simply. I don't know why, but you just unscrew it, take the blade plug out if maybe that helps, and then after you do it for a little bit, you can just take the ring right out. It's very tricky to do because, or it's very tedious at least, because it has very little wiggle room for you to actually grab it. But this is what you'll need to do every time you remove or want to tighten the shrouds or swap out the collar sections. So once that's removed, you can see it's got the tracks. You just have to pull up the shrouds on each side. Just grab it, pull it, grab it, pull it, and then you can see the retention screws on both sides. The top ones you don't have to mess with, but the bottom ones are the ones that hold the neck portion of this lightsaber in place. So you're going to want to take your retention lever thing, unscrew the bottoms, and then you're all set. Once they're unscrewed as much as you can, I like to grab a hold of the copper section with my thumb and forefinger and just turn it all at the same time. There we go. That way it helps a little bit with the clocking of the shrouds and whatnot. So you just remove it, and this is what I was talking about with it will wear down over time. This is one of my minor gripes with this hilt. This otherwise really gorgeous hilt, it has couple retention things that I think will eventually wear down the lightsaber and make it not as fun. But as long as you treat it gently, it should be able to survive for a long time. So that's out. That's completely done, and then you just swap it out with the single button. You put this guy in. You line up the button with the button, of course. There we go. There we go, it's all lined up. Clicks and everything. I like to hold it in place here. And then put the neck back on. Now this can take a very, very long time to set up again, just to get everything clocked in the right orientation. Because when you tighten it as tight as you can, it won't always align. Like this one is not perfectly aligned. So you're gonna want to have to figure out how to set it up. So you actually don't need to have this part in the lightsaber when you're doing the next section, so it might make it easier if you have it out, and then you can just work on orienting it properly just by making minor adjustments. That's a little too much of an adjustment, so I'll try and move it. So it's the copper neck piece that dictates when the thread stops spinning. So use that how you wish, and then you can adjust it, and there you go. That's not quite there yet. So adjust it. That's a little too much. This can take a very long time to set up, so just be patient, and there you go. I think that looks pretty good. It's ever so slightly off, so I'm gonna try my best to adjust for it here. There we go, I think that's good enough. So we'll leave it at that. It looks pretty straight. That can be a real pain, so it'll take some practice to get used to it. Now let's put this part in. Align the button with the button. And then we'll just put it in. This can be a bit tricky, especially because I'm doing it on camera. Cameras always make things trickier. There we go, and you can hear the click. There we go. So, now the next step, I would say, would be to put this guy in just temporarily, because you want to make sure that it's pushed in as much as possible, or else you're going to have a little bit of a gap. If you see here this little lip in the black section, you want that to be pushed in all the way, because if it's sticking up, you're going to have that black section showing between the two metal bits, and that's just no good. So you're going to want to push it in as much as possible, and just for now, push it in as much as you can, and then tighten down the 6 screws that I showed you earlier. You actually need to take them from this guy. So I'm going to do that real quick. You're going to want to take it here, and then just put them in. It will take a little bit to get used to it. Because this is not a quick process that you're gonna go through. Just switch these out. And it may actually need to, whoops, bumped it. You may actually need to do this quite a few times, because even when I put it in all the way, there's still a little bit of a black gap. So you're gonna wanna back this section upwards a little bit. So that can take a very, very long time of just micro adjustments to get everything fitted right. Okay, we'll leave it at that. So it's mainly just a lot of micro adjustments that you need to make in order to eliminate all of the weird gaps and whatever else. So I think I'll need to do this for a little bit longer, and I'm going to keep doing exactly what I've been showing you until I get this pushed up a little bit by unscrewing the copper piece to allow the threads to stop earlier. while still having this. So it'll probably be another like 180 degrees high or something like that. And then I'll just adjust the copper piece. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. That actually didn't take much longer. As you can see, I've eliminated that space. You can kind of see it. I'll show you better when you have the handle on. But I've eliminated the space by backing this up a little bit and then reclocking it. So you're going to want to get used to that. And then, as I said before, you just take all the screws from the previous one, then put them in. And I also sanded these screws down in order to allow the control box, not the control box, but the little box details to be flat and flush. So if you can, try and keep the exact same order of screws on the same side. So just take one off and put it on the exact hole of the other one. I wish it was a little bit easier to swap out the crossguard with the standard one blade lightsaber, but with what we got, this is still really, really nice. So it's definitely better than every single option that is out there, because I've built pretty much every single Ogdo Killer Cal Kestis lightsaber variant, and this one is definitely my favorite to install. There we go. Then one more screw. There we go. So after you have the collar piece set up with the set screws holding it all in place, then you can tighten the set screws to hold, where am I? There it is. Okay, I think I still use this one, yeah. So then you tighten the bottom set screws in the emitter. Try not to tighten them too much. This is important. Don't tighten them too much because you will wear it down even faster. So just tighten it until it's got resistance and then go a tiny bit more than that. There we go. And then you should be all set. Now that is all set up how it needs to be. So the thing you need to keep in mind with the shrouds is this is how you adjust the looseness of it. So the tighter this is, the more difficult it is to slide this in and take it out. It was an absolute nightmare to try and take this out in the very beginning because they were so tight. So I like to loosen them up and once again do a lot of micro adjustments. It uses the same Allen key as the side blade retention screws. I like to tighten them just enough, and then a lot of micro adjustments until it's as tight as I want it to be in the actual shroud, so you test it out afterwards. So that wasn't too difficult, so I think we'll leave it at that. And then this side, this one is very difficult, so I'm going to loosen this one up, or else it'll be awful to take off again. Just ever so slightly loosen it, very slightly. I might even tighten it a bit. There we go. Super tiny micro adjustments. And then still a little too tight. So we'll loosen it up a bit more. There we go. That seems to be just about right, and they don't seem to wiggle when I try and wiggle it, so we'll leave it there. And then to close it all off, you put this final ring on it. So when you do switch it over to the single button and the single blade setup, you will have to swap out the config as well, or just adjust the config file, which is the easiest one. Change it from 2 button to 1 button, and then it'll work like you want it to. So I'm going to just tighten this up, put everything back together, and then that'll conclude everything you need to know about this lightsaber. I will go over everything one more time, just verbally. I won't show you everything one more time. Just to try and cover everything, because there is a lot involved in this lightsaber, and I will show you the extended speaker. So there you go, got the single button. And then you can put this one in. There you go. Then we can remove the speaker, and I'll show you that the extended speaker works. This is something else that I had to do that I've never done before, is use a JST connector. This is so when you do get the extended quick disconnect handle, which you don't have yet, but when you do get it, it's important that this is a JST connector because apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently you put part of the not the JST connector, the quick disconnect on here, and then you put everything together after. So you have to put the piece on the stick and then screw it in here, whatever it needs to be done to get that done. I didn't realize that at first, so I actually installed all of this without a JST connector, and then I realized that that wasn't going to work. So I did uninstall it, but in my process of installing, I did figure out that when this is screwed in all the way, it's not straight. It's kind of crooked, and I didn't want that to be a thing, so I was working on something to make it straight. Basically, I unscrewed it just enough for me to allow it to be straight, and then I glued it in place. But then I realized I need the JST connector. So my first go at it, I did end up gluing it down, and then I did break it. So then I couldn't use the same one again. So I did get another replacement speaker thing. And it seems like it's slightly different in texture. This is actually stronger than this one, so they must have printed this a while ago before they got their new printers, because right now I think they're using the bamboo carbon fiber filament with the super crazy bamboo printer, but that's why this is a different filament. And then it's all set up with the JST connector, and this is super strong now because of the new method of printing and the material. So when you get this, you're going to want to I might actually send this to you taken apart. So let me show it to you working. This is what you need to put in when you have the quick disconnect. And then this, you put it in the quick disconnect pommel, and then it will connect. I will try and connect it as straight as possible here. There we go, and then there you go. So showed you that it works. Now I'll show you how to take it apart. So with the JST connector, you're gonna want to be gentle with it and just use your fingers to try and unplug it like that, and then you're going to need to replug it. So I will send it to you like this in two separate pieces so that you can put this on the quick disconnect coupler on your own. So you'll have to look up how to do that, but you basically put the quick disconnecting on here and then feed it through, screw it in, and then you just plug it together and you'll be all set to go. So we'll leave it at that. I'll put this off to the side, then replace everything. And that pretty much covers everything that you need to know about this lightsaber. And as you can see, it doesn't quite line up. It's a little bit crooked. So you will want to loosen these guys up. And then this is how you reclock the pommel. Just loosen that up. And then you can move it however you want. So I like to line it up with a couple of the boxes in there that line up pretty straight with that. So once you do that and you're happy with it, then just tighten everything back up. So there you go. That's everything you need to know about this lightsaber. Let's go over everything one more time just to make sure you have all the information in one place. There we go. So, with this hilt, there's a few things you need to keep in mind. If these are wiggly, you remove this top ring by unscrewing it with your fingers. If that doesn't work, get some double-sided tape to take it off. But get that unscrewed, pull off your shrouds, tighten the inside of the shrouds to however you want. Lots of micro adjustments to make it work. And then to remove the, to swap out the collar sections with the button, with the crossguard and the single, you just undo the bottom set screws on both sides, and then you can unscrew this top thing, pull it out after you take this off, unscrew that, pull that section out. I do have M3 double-sided tape for you to add to these if you wish, just so that it sticks on a little bit more when you're using it. Micro adjustments with that to adjust the pommel. The copper section is how you set up the clocking of aligning all of these things, basically. Lots of micro adjustments. Don't tighten these too tight because you're going to eventually wear out the top of this connector. The Bluetooth code is going to be in the description. Everything you need to know for all the customization is going to be in the description, even though you probably know how to do all of that. And then I'm also going to put everything that I'm saying right now, everything I can think of, in the description, and maybe anything that I might have missed. But I think I did a pretty decent job at covering everything you need to know about this pretty complicated lightsaber. So this was a pretty fun install. It was a breeze, actually, compared to a lot of my other lightsabers that I've built, and it was a super, super nice break from the, 5 Master Chassis lightsabers I've almost done in a row now, and I've got a few more up and coming. So this was a very nice and super unique install, because there's a lot of new things I got to experiment a lot with these super thin side blade diffusion methods, and I'm very happy with what it ended up being, and I'll probably be using that for any future diffusion that I'll need, at least for something this tiny. And everything else works like a charm, so keep everything that I've said in this video in mind, and then it should all work exactly how it should. So I hope you like it, and we'll get back to my face so I can close off this video properly. Alright, and that brings us to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed checking out the lightsaber, and I'll see you guys next time.